Hello, sports fans everywhere. My name is Jairus Sanders, and you're watching Just Sports with yours truly, Jairus Sanders. We're going to be talking about, of course, sports, but most importantly, we're going to be talking about the Arkansas Razorbacks game this week against the Ole Miss Rebels, Black Bears, Land Sharks, whatever their name is. But stay tuned. We got a lot more for you. Before we jump into that, I want to give you a brief introduction of who I am, where I come from, and what drew me to being a Razorback fan. Well, I'm 28 years old, but 24 years of my life I've lived in Malvern, Arkansas. It's a population 10,000 city in the central Arkansas, where all we do is eat, drink, and bleed Razorback red. Yeah, we all bleed red, but there's something about Arkansas bleeding that Razorback red. It's in my blood. I'm living right now in Tampa, Florida, surrounded by a bunch of Gator fans or Bull fans here at USF, but I will always bleed that Razorback red. I love the Razorback football and basketball, and I even root for the baseball team with Coach Dave Van Horn. But it's in my blood, so I have to root for the Razorbacks. Well, with being in Arkansas, there isn't a professional sports team. So they gave me the freedom to choose if I want to root for a specific team or player. I chose the player route, specifically in the NBA. I was born in the 90s, so I know a lot about Michael Jordan. My TV station, we had direct contact with WGN. Most people might know that as that's the place where all the local NBA Chicago Bulls games. So we watch a lot of Michael Jordan games, but when I fell in love with the game, it was really in 2003 when LeBron James was drafted into the league, and he's had a lot of pressure on him from day one, and he hasn't done nothing but live up to that pressure. So I'm a big LeBron James fan, but I still love the league. I still love the game of basketball, and I also, of course, love the game of football. So we'll be talking about a lot of NFL, a lot of NBA. I might even throw in some MLB in there every now and then. I root for a lot of the Arkansas Razorback players, especially on those football teams. I could root for the Cowboys or I could root for the New Orleans Saints, but that's just not who I am. I like my Arkansas Razorbacks, and I like LeBron James. So that's pretty much what you're going to be listening to on my shows that I post on this page. But I'll still post, of course, when it comes time for playoffs, when something big happens in either sport. You will see it right here on Just Sports. So this week, we're going to be talking about the Arkansas Razorbacks versus Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi. So the game will be held in Fayetteville at 3:30 Eastern Time on SEC Network. So this game is known, and especially in recent history, ever since the Brett Bielema days, it's been a high-scoring game that has a lot of a lot of power, a lot of meaning for the SEC, or at least for these two clubhouses. So Ole Miss, let's start there. They're 1-2, just like Arkansas. They just came off of a loss that, if you are an Ole Miss fan, it might not feel like a loss because they scored 48 points. Yeah, 48 points to 63. It's not a basketball game. It's a football game. 48 points to 63 against the number 2 team in the nation, Alabama. Anyone who puts up 48 points against Alabama, their offense is amazing. So they do have the number 1 offense in the country, putting up over 570 yards per game. But for them to give up 62 points, that means their defense wasn't really defending anything. There wasn't stopping nobody. So they have the worst defense in the SEC, giving up over 640 yards per game. So they have both ends of the spectrum on their team. So what are they going to be bringing to Arkansas? Well, they have an up-tempo, fast-paced offense. And Lane Kiffin, he knows how to run an offense. If you watched the game last week, you'll see it felt like they knew every single play the defense for Alabama was going to do. And they succeeded every single time until it got to like the last 7 minutes of the game and Alabama decided to beat Bama. They put up some stops and they continue to score on out throughout the game. So they're going to bring that offense, that fast-paced offense, to Arkansas to go up against one of the most improved defenses in the SEC. Barry Odom is leading a tough, hard-nosed defense with Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan, starring with the linebackers there. They didn't have their best game, I would say, against Auburn last week. We were expecting them to be able to stop the run because that's one of the things that Auburn did not do well before coming into that game. So they gave up quite a few rushing yards. Ely on Ole Miss is probably going to have a good game against our defense there because he looked like he was an all-star. He looked like an all-American going against Alabama last week. But our offense, let's switch to that side of the ball. Our offense has been improving every single week. They have been improving under the leadership of Briles. So Felipe Franks has been running a good offense, especially last week against Auburn. They should have won that game, but we're not going to talk about what happened there. That was a travesty, and a very, very unfortunate event that happened against my Hogs last week. But Felipe Franks, he did his thing last week, and you would think with this offense improving that our stars coming into the year would have had, tremendous seasons. Those stars were Rakeem Boyd and Treylon Burks. Well, neither of them have really been playing as much. Neither of them played last week against Auburn. But who has been stepping up? Who has been putting forth heroic efforts, for this offense? And that has been Treylon Smith, and that's also been Davion Warren. Treylon Smith had over 70 yards receiving and rushing last week against Auburn. Davion Warren had just under 100 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns against Auburn. So they have both stepped up, raised their playing level because of the players, their teammates that have been injured. And I see that continuing this week against Ole Miss's horrible defense. So if you were to ask me, what do I feel like is going to happen? What is the score going to be, Jairus? The score I feel will be is 38 Arkansas to 35 Ole Miss. I'm picking Arkansas not just because I'm a Razorback fan, it's because that defense from Ole Miss is awful. So I believe that Arkansas will continue to improve on offense, and I believe their defense will be able to contain them a little bit better than Bama did. That does not mean that Arkansas's defense is better than Alabama by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like they do read and do a lot of studying and scouting really well, especially seeing what Alabama was able to do good and the week before what Kentucky was able to do good against Ole Miss. So like I said, I feel like it's going to be an Arkansas win by 3 points, 38 to 35. Please share, like, comment, subscribe to this page. There's going to be much more information, much more content coming up in the coming weeks. I will do a post-game reaction. I'll share that video, I believe, on Monday, and just so you can, see exactly my thoughts about what happened. Hopefully, I'll be celebrating an Arkansas victory on Monday with you. Again, you are watching Just Sports with your host, Jairus Sanders. Seriously, Just Sports.